new force is about to hit this city. From the dark side of the moon, this is the Cosmos Radio Network.
Welcome to the Biz Breks Podcast on the Cosmos Radio Network USA. I am your host, Kevin the Credit Crusher, along with my co-host, the beautiful Nykeia Neal. And we got a special guest on today's podcast. Clap it up. Nice. Clap it up for Brian Murray from Blueprint Finance. Brian is here to talk to us about tax. Well, he's really here to talk to us about his story. We're going to get into some tax tips and some things. But we are here every Thursday, 1 p.m. on the Biz Breks Podcast, where we have real talk with real entrepreneurs. You get to hear the entrepreneur's story. You get to hear some of their struggles. You get to hear some of their tips. You get to hear some of the tools they use, some of the resources that work well for them. And they get to really just dive into how they became entrepreneurs. All right. That's the real talk on the Biz Breks Podcast. So, Nykeia Neal, welcome back. Thank you for being a wonderful co-host.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. It's always good to be here with you, good brother.
So, Brian, I was going to read your bio, but you know what I think? I think I just want you to tell the world who you are, Brian Murray.
Of course. Appreciate you guys inviting me on your platform. Of course, I know both you guys personally, very, very highly respected, always the utmost integrity. So appreciate you guys just having me on. As far as bio, I think it's always a little awkward trying to read your own bio anyway, but I would just say what I would want people to know most about me is just as a man, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a believer, I'm a person of faith. Just try to stand on integrity, try to stand on principles, and just happen to be gifted in the area of finance. I work as a certified public accountant, or CPA for short. Just something that God blessed me with the knowledge to be able to help some folks in this area. Not an easy area to understand or navigate. I get tripped up a lot myself. But again, just blessed and thankful to just work in the area that I was gifted in. Been working in accounting for, probably close to 16, 17 years. And started my company, which is Blueprint Financial Group, in 2017. Excuse me. And since that time, I've just really just been focused on trying to, one, help my community, reinvest, recycle our dollars. And I try to specifically focus on areas of entrepreneurship, equity or ownership rather, and education. And I find that by, really sticking to those core principles, it's helped me, be pretty successful so far. So it's a little bit about me and my bio.
Brian, listen, first things first, I have to tell the audience, most of the entrepreneurs that we bring on the Biz Breks Podcast are personal friends of ours, but we also use their services. I trust Brian implicitly and explicitly. I have referred Brian to many of my clients, and I have referred him to some of my family members, some of my near and dear family members. So when we talk to these people on the Biz Breks Podcast, we're not just grabbing people randomly off the street. We know these people, and we know that they have a high level of integrity. So we're honored to have you on the show. And before we get into, because I want to ask you a question about something you mentioned really briefly, but before we get into that, Nykeia Neal is one of our sponsors. So Nyke, you want to talk to the people about what you do and how they can reach you?
Okay. So talking to the people about what I do, I help with financial planning. So when you think about financial planning, oftentimes people think about it and it's like overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. I help you put the pieces together and very simple pieces together. So I help with budgeting. I help with understanding the basics of life insurance, investing for yourself, for retirement, for your children, as well as help with budgeting. And then on the small business side, we do the same things, because oftentimes as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we forget to set up plans for ourselves to make sure that we have an exit plan. Just retirement is not necessarily just your business. You need to make sure that you're setting monies aside and everything for yourself as well. So I help with all of that and more. And then I have the personality to go along with it. So, you're not going to get somebody that's all bougie and stuck up. I know where you're coming from. I have a Target, a shopping thing too. So I understand and I get it. So the way that you reach me is by email is just my first and last name. So it's nykeianeal@gmail.com, or you can reach me by phone 267-257-3274, or you can hit me on the social media platforms, Facebook, first and last name, Nykeia Neal, or on Instagram, Nykeia Neal.
Awesome, nice. And those life insurance policies, so many times, nice. We don't. Our people, Black people. I'm unapologetic when I talk about people, and we don't discriminate here on the show, Brian. Just to let you know, but we do cater to an audience that is underserved in these areas, right? And so, in the Black community, we often don't have life insurance. We pass on, and we don't pass on that wealth through those life insurance policies. So now tell them one more time where they can go get that life insurance, how they can contact you.
They can contact me at 267-257-3274, nykeianeal@gmail.com. My name is right on the screen. You can spell it right, and that's how you're going to get to me. And just remember that life insurance is not just for you, it's for them, okay? So we got to not be selfish with it, people. We got to pass on this wealth, and just having it at your job is not enough. Please understand that.
Awesome. So, Brian, you talked about two things that I want you to expound upon. One is being an entrepreneur, husband and father. Right? I happen to know you have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife, beautiful daughter. Yes. Your daughter's how old now?
She's 5 years old, going on 20.
Right. So Nykeia has a beautiful daughter. She has two beautiful daughters, right? I have two beautiful daughters. You're ahead of Nykeia in one of the areas. She's got you in one. I'm ahead of both of you. Right? I'm ahead of both of you, right? I've got through some of the young stuff, and now I'm the old stuff. But the older they are, let me just say this: the older they are, the bigger the challenges, right? Mm-hmm. So, being a husband, let's talk about that. Being a husband and an entrepreneur. Talk to us a little bit about that aspect of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty blessed because both my wife and I are both entrepreneurs. My wife was an entrepreneur long before I decided to take that leap. So, day in and day out, I know with 100% certainty that she gets it. You know what I mean? Like, she understands that sometimes there's highs, there's lows. I'm not always the most pleasant husband to deal with, depending on how the day went. But at the end of the day, I think we kind of get it in terms of the sacrifice that's necessary. So I'm blessed in that respect, because I know that everybody doesn't have that. Sometimes you can feel like you're pulling when the other person is pushing, and vice versa. And it's like we both kind of get it that we've been really blessed in some specific areas where we have to kind of live out this gift and this purpose and this calling. The other thing I'll say, and I'll try not to be slow me down if I get long-winded, because I can.
No, man, you talk.
So, I think I was thinking about this earlier when I was driving into my office today. Entrepreneurship is it's as much for me. It's been as much a process of self-discovery as it has been like the business discovery. Meaning, like, working on, like, learning myself and working on myself physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of those areas, intellectually, and they're all interconnected. So it's been as much that process as it has been figuring out the right service or products or employees, or it's been probably more on the sort of like self-assessment side, or like the I guess the emotional side of it. So yeah, that part, I don't think that can be like emphasized enough, because I didn't realize that. Like I said, my wife was there long before me. I think she's been in business for she just celebrated her 15th year, if I'm not mistaken. So
congratulations. Right?
Thank you. There were certain things that she like sort of understood inherently just from the process of going through it that I didn't get, right? Like, I was sort of like when my wife was like kind of starting out and building, especially early on in our marriage, like I was sort of like the 9 to 5, like I was handling that side. Right. So we balanced each other out. Like, she sort of had the freedom, the independence, and I stuck to more of stability, security, just making sure that we were okay.
Right.
And what I didn't realize until I came on the other side of that spectrum was like, man, like when you're in it, you are in it. you know, good, bad, ugly, and different. And you evolve. You're not the same person that you are when you start out, which that's life. You should evolve. So yeah, just saying all that to say, like, just being with someone that is understanding of that is critical it's been critical for me. And then the ability to be teachable and to learn, and just realize there are things I don't know. Like, I spent 15 plus years in corporate with a certain mindset of security, safety, promotion, somebody else elevating you to when you get on your own side of it. It's not about that. It's about taking a risk sometimes, like betting on yourself. Yeah. I guess betting may not even be the right word, because you're not gambling. But just, taking a risk on yourself because you trust your calling, you trust, perhaps if you're a person of faith, you trust who's called you to do what you're doing. So it's been a lot, but I'm so happy that I made the decision to go the direction I did. Yeah.
But I have a quick question, Kev. So, Brian, when we met you, I want to say it was right when you were starting, like, out in your journey of entrepreneurship. So what did you do to take that leap? Like, what in you made you say, you know what, corporate, this was nice, this was great, I learned here, but now I want to do this? Because I've been to, several workshops of yours, and you're so great at what you teach and what you give to the community. But what was it that made you decide, like, I'm going to take the risk on me, like, I'm going to grow something for our family? Like, what was that for you?
Man, I could probably spend another hour-long podcast explaining that to you. And again, if I get long-winded, y'all better slow me down if I get long-winded. But I'll say
this. Right. This is a talk show, so just talk.
Again, I spent 15 years in corporate America for some really, really big companies, some prominent companies, and some small companies as well. And, I sort of came in from the ground up, like just entry level, not just graduating out of Temple, don't know a whole lot, but I got a degree. And really worked my way up from entry level to like controller level, and eventually like a CEO, CFO level, which is more like a director type level. And in that process, I distinctly remember I did a lot of job hopping. Like, I kept going to different companies because I would get frustrated. I couldn't figure out, like, I just thought I just need to be at a better company. I need to be under a different manager. I need to, perhaps have a different salary. And it's like, it was like a revolving door. It was like I would get to the same point of frustration again, which again had a lot to do with me physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's just calling a spade as a Black folk. A lot of times in corporate America, our journey is different. Yes. And we get treated differently. Like, I distinctly remember one time, like, sitting with a manager and asking, I worked for this company for years, for way longer than I should have. And I said, honestly, I just want to know, like, why haven't I been promoted yet? And they said, oh, if we promote you, we have to promote so-and-so. I'm like, what? Like, wait a minute, like, rewind, like, come again? Like, so, like, my promotion is tied to someone else. Well, it wouldn't be fair if we don't promote so-and-so as well. And so-and-so actually got promoted and ended up getting my same, like, we had equal job titles. And I'm like, man, I got, again, I'm just calling a spade. I got far more education, far more experience. Personality wise, may not be as likable. That's not always my skill set, as being, I don't always do that.
That's why you have a wife.
Right. I don't always do the good old boy, the net. I don't always do that. Like, I am who I am. And that matters very much in corporate America. So I just remember, like, I got to a certain point where it's like, this isn't working. Like, I keep going to different companies, different times, and I got, like, to the highest job titles, salary, corner office, and I was at my most miserable point. And I was like, I just can't do this. Like, I can't come home as this version of myself. And I had a newborn daughter. Right. So I was like, that probably was that might have, like, really, really swung the pendulum, because I was leaving out when it was dark to go to work before she woke up. And then when I came home, it was pretty much time to put her down for bed. And I'm like, I'm going to miss life if I continue. And that was assuming I left at a reasonable time. Right. And got attitude like, whoa, you checking out already, clocking out already. You know, that's just the mentality sometimes in corporate America.
Right.
Which I was cool with when I started out, but then after you become a father and a husband, and you start realizing like, man, this don't matter. It's like this stuff won't matter as much. So saying all that to say that had a lot to do with the light bulb going off and just saying like, man, if for no other reason then I just want to be around for my daughter, and I want to be present to serve in my community and present to be active in my faith. Like I don't want to spend my life at a company that can replace me at a moment's notice. Right. So that had a lot to do with my journey.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Nykeia. Did I cut you?
Right answer. I just, I love Brian, man. He's forward and just, it is what it is. And that's what I really appreciate about you. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Off topic. We are a beautiful panel of people.
I appreciate that.
I love this podcast because
I'm sorry, Kev. You're beautiful too, Kev.
I look so small here. I'm not a small people audience. I'm a real boy. I'm a real boy. All right. So Brian, how long did it take? Because I know there was some time that you contemplated coming over on this side of the fence. How long did it take before you actually said, I'm taking the leap today?
Man, I had to at least be in my somewhere between my 13th to 15th year in corporate America before I finally said, and let me be clear, I didn't, I'm an accountant, so I'm very pragmatic and I'm very systematic. So I didn't just do it without sort of planning or taking calculated steps and a lot of times baby steps.
Saving money.
All of that. I kind of took in my mind, and here's the interesting thing. This is why I say for me, it's always important to let it be known I'm a person of faith, because my plan didn't work the way that I thought I was going to do it, which is let me just continue to be safe, secure, but I'll do some things on the side, almost like a side hustle to get the business going. And then eventually in a period of years or whatever it is, it'll kind of even out. And it didn't work that way. It just did it. I left the best in terms of title, salary, office, all of that. I left the best job that I had because, again, just being at a point of frustration, thinking I just need to go somewhere else. I left thinking that I was going to get another job. I'm searching for jobs. And again, I calculated, I'm look, I got a degree, I got, certifications, I'm a CPA. I won't have trouble getting a job is what I thought. And as I'm going through these interviews and sitting in front of folks and pretty much begging them for a job is what it felt like.
Right.
It was I would get close, but no offer, you know what I mean? And it's I just got to be sort of outright and direct. It's God would just kept showing me that it's not going to go. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. Yep. And so I got out there and was interviewing and the jobs weren't coming along. So it's all right, I'm in the deep end now. So I got to swim. I got a newborn daughter at the time. I got a wife. All our finances are interconnected. So what I do affects her, what she does affects me. And it's I got to make this thing work now. So I started, just trying to run a business. It's I'm out here. Let me just try to run a business. I wouldn't recommend that strategy, but that was the way it ended up for me. And, it took a period of years. I went back and worked part-time at certain points in my career for companies. And, I was always pretty direct in saying that, look, I'm a business owner. I'm building a business, but I'm willing to work part-time. I did Uber. I did whatever I needed to do to just try to make things work. Right. And by no means have I arrived and I'm just, I got it all under control, but I've been blessed in the sense that now I can do this full time. I've built enough momentum and God has shown me enough favor to where I can do it full time without doing a bunch of other stuff, because it's really, really hard to be a jack of all trades and be an entrepreneur. It's extremely difficult. You got to be all in or all out at some point. Right. It might not be like that on day one, but at some point you got to push all your chips in and say, look, this is what it is. This is my hand.
Got burn both.
Yeah. That's good. So That's a great segue. Something you said was a great segue to my next question. And I heard you say you're a man of faith. I keep hearing you say you've been blessed. I keep hearing you say your path. So what does, and we don't shy away from any topic, right? A lot of podcasts will say we don't get political, we don't get religious, right? But I understand that your faith played a huge role in your trajectory. So talk a little bit about how that works. There are people out there who are struggling with that as well. Oh, did we?
My connection is bad. Give me a sec. My connection is like really, really bad. Sorry.
No problem. We're gonna wait because you are dropping gems, and however long it takes, we're gonna wait.
It's a perfect time for you to go to your commercial, Kevin.
Premisien Credit Counseling. So Premisien Credit Counseling, we help individuals and businesses get access to capital through credit. And we're right now, this is a great time. So what people don't know, or a lot of people don't know about Premisien Credit Counseling, is we are the nation's only Black-owned, Black-operated franchise, credit counseling franchise in the nation. And we're looking for franchisee partners. When I say we are a franchise, we are the franchisor, and we are selling franchises. So if you are looking to build a book of business, you're looking to help the community, because the spirit of our business is to help the community. If you want to help our community put themselves in a better financial position through credit, give us a call, 215-904-8690. You can look us up on the web at premisien.com. That's Premisien. You can find us on all social media platforms with the name Premisien. And you can contact us via email at info@premisien.com. Come on over to the team. We'd love to have you as a franchisee and talk more about those opportunities.
All right. Looks like Brian is back.
Sorry about that.
Good stuff. So Brian, talk to us about how your faith played a role in your journey.
Oh man, again, probably another hour needed for that topic. But yeah, I mean, as it relates to faith and how it's interconnected with business, what I learned in the process of entrepreneurship, and I'm still learning, is that for me, I gotta, don't get me wrong, like I worked my tail off to get where I'm at, but there were a lot of things along the way that God did for me that it only could have been God. You know what I'm saying? And it's tough to like describe it in a way that makes sense, but there were certain things that happened that were like, man, like this wasn't me. Like I remember when I was going through the process of taking the CPA exam, which is extremely difficult, and I was failing, like I was like failing the exams, and I was really ready to like quit and like give up. I was like, man, I just, I don't need this anymore. I don't need the stress of it. I'm cool with being an employee. And I didn't really necessarily need the CPA to work in corporate America. It makes you more marketable, but you don't need it. And I kept failing exams, and I was ready to give up. And I remember my wife was like, no, you cannot give up. Like you can't quit. Like, so to try to give an abbreviated version, there's 4 parts of the exam that you have to pass within a 18-month window. And somehow I managed. It took me I had to take the exam a total of 7 times before I actually like passed the entire CPA. Mm-hmm. Some folks take it, they bang it out. All 4, they just bang it out. That was not my experience. So I got close after the 3rd exam, but the window was about to close. You had to pass them in a certain window, and that window was about to close. And I was like, you know what I mean? I don't really desire to do this anymore. I was like, no, you're too close. You cannot give up, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, you got to kind of process it emotionally when you fail those types of exams and stuff like that. And then you go back to the drawing board. Your life is dedicated for months and months of just studying. So I'm like, all right, this is the last time. If it don't work this time, the window's closed. So I can't, I got to start from scratch. I don't get credit for any of the previous stuff. Mm-hmm. If it don't work this time, I'm done. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of times that I got close to passing the exam. You needed a 75. I would get like a 74. I would get like a 73. And emotionally, like that makes you want to like pull your eyes up.
Oh my God.
You like the Buffalo Bills of CPAs.
I remember just praying about it before I went into that last exam. And you know, and I didn't, it was like when I took that the last exam that I finally passed, I didn't feel like I did a great job at it. I just was like, I just thought to myself, yeah, this is going to happen again. I'm gonna get like a, you know, a 70 or something like that. And I got to 75. So I just got it. Yeah, it's kind of like all of the studying, everything that I was doing on my own, I could not get that score.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it's like, I just kind of relaxed and just prayed on it.
Yep.
Gave it over to God. I said, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm content either way. I'll be fine either way. And it's like, I got the 75. So not to go off the rails there, but that gave me enough perspective to say, okay, now I've got to do something with this. It's not enough to just get this credential, get this license, start. It's like, nah, I got to really do something with this and pay it forward, you know, give it back to God, give it back to my community, do something with it. And that's where I sort of figured out in the entrepreneur journey, where it's connected, that I'm not just an accountant. Like, I'm not somebody out here just doing taxes. I can do those things, but for me, there's an impact and there's a calling that I'm trying to make. Like, I'm really trying to help people get to some level of financial freedom.
Yes.
Generally, that's through business. Like, most businesses need the help of an accountant, entrepreneur, et cetera. So I've just figured out that there are areas that I need to specifically focus on and give back. And that's my way of giving God that ultimate glory so that he gets to shine. I really don't want it to be about me. I just want for God to get that shine, but I need the impact in order for that to happen.
Right. That's good. That's good.
Jesus is the reason. Jesus is the reason. That's good. And I heard you say your wife was like, you ain't no punk, huh? You ain't no punk. Get back out there.
Man, listen.
His wife is so dope, man. I love her.
Yeah. Great.
My wife is way tougher than me when it comes to stuff like if we ever got like a customer service dispute or something, like, I just put her on the phone, like, cause she gets at it. But no, she was pretty clear with me. Like, she was not giving in. So it was like, even if it took, and that, that's the blessing of being with someone that understands, like, I'm going to fight with you enough to not let you give up. Like, I'll do everything in my power. Ultimately, it was my decision, but I'm not going to like easily let you like give up. And that it was enough to like say, okay, yeah, you're right. I got to keep going. Like, if you believe in me, that's enough to keep me going. Right.
And we have to have her on the show. I see she's in the audience right now.
I'm already thinking that too.
Hey, we lining you up, D. We lining you up just to let you know. So stay tuned. So great. That's Brian, that's going to be very helpful, and it gives me more insight. It just endears me more to you because I've seen you come up, and now I know some of the backstory, some of the emotional backstory, some of the personal backstory. So it just makes it much more endearing to me.
Absolutely.
So good deal. So what we like to do now is I want you to give the audience a tip, tax tip, finance tip. Give them a tip that can help them on their journey.
Yeah. As I was telling you guys, I gotta be really, really careful when it comes to giving tax advice to folks who are not my clients, even though I know it's really easy to go on Instagram, Facebook, and get all types of tax advice. I personally don't do that unless it's a client that I'm engaged in, because that can go horribly wrong when people don't have guidance. What I'll say, and it's not so much specific to taxes.
Right.
I end up working with a good amount of like business owners, real estate investors, folks who are invested in the market. I for the most part, my clients are not just, 9 to 5, going to work, get a refund check. Although I help some folks who fit that profile as well. But the majority of clients are sort of like their financial situation is more complex. I got some really, really good advice from a mentor, and he wasn't even mentoring me on accounting per se, but just some areas that were related to business. And I remember him saying to me, if you're going to be successful towards your goals, you have to drown out the noise. You know what I mean? Like, you can go online, you can go on Facebook, Instagram, you're going to see all types of things where it's like the shiny object, and you start following.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Start going after the carrot, so to speak. And although I sort of knew that internally, like, you got to be able to drown out distractions and noise, to hear it from someone who was far more, who was way more accomplished than what I consider myself to be right now in business. And I want to get to where that person is, and the way that they were able to say it to me, which fits my personality type anyway. Like I'm more, like I said, I am who I am. I don't have a desire to fit. You know what I mean? Like I want to fit in with the folks that love me. You know what I mean? At home, I always want to fit. But like when I leave my doors, like I'm not concerned with being liked or fitting in. So that fits really, really well, that I can sort of tune out noise when I need to. And the reason that's important is because whether it's taxes, whether it's your business investing, there's always a shiny object. There's always the next, the trendy thing to go after. And you've really got to be able to kind of drown out a lot of noise and a lot of distractions. And I guess to make it more specific to taxes, if you are trying to work with a tax professional because maybe you saw that person on social media, online, or whatever it is, I would say there are people who hit me up all the time, like, hey, do you think I should do this? Do you think I should do that? And we're not even like in a business relationship. They're just looking for tax advice. And my response is usually like, just even though I could kind of give them some things, like, I think number one, you should be really, really careful about taking tax advice and tax guidance and financial guidance from someone who's not engaged. Like, you're not paying this individual, so they have absolutely no risk if it goes wrong with you, right? Number one. But then number two, I always encourage, like, check the credentials. You know what I mean? Like, whoever you're working with.
Yes.
I would ask, like, what licenses do you hold? And you don't, to be clear, you don't necessarily need a CPA to do taxes, right? You can go to HR Block. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can go to H&R Block and get your taxes number, right? Again, the folks that I provide value to, their financial situation is a little bit more advanced than what H&R Block can typically do.
Right.
So, I always encourage folks, like, check the credentials. Like, what licenses do you hold, right? Again, not that you need that for taxes, but I'll be more specific. Like, as a CPA, like, I'm not someone that, like, when I worked for those 15 years in corporate America, I didn't just spend my time like just doing taxes or just doing bookkeeping. Like, I was responsible for all of it. Like, as a, when I got to a certain level, I had to be concerned about the books, the taxes, the budget, the HR staff. It was like, it's a different element when someone has like a $200 or $300 million business and they're saying, you take the reins financially. Like, we're following your lead. So, but again, the calling convinced me, like, if I can do that for them, I can do it for myself. I can do it for my community. I can do it for people that I actually want to work with. So just saying all that to say, my credential, my skill set came with something different than just filling out a tax form or just typing some things in the QuickBooks. Like, so I would encourage folks to, if you're going to work with someone, drown out the distractions from other things that you may see, focus on that individual, ask questions of that individual, like, what makes you qualified to do what you're doing. Two best practices, I would say, 2 licenses that I would recommend for someone who's in this space that I work in. CPA, obviously certified public accountant, or there's also what's known as an enrolled agent, or an EA for short. I would highly, highly encourage using a professional that has one of those 2 designations. Primary reason, because they can represent you before they have representation rights before the IRS, which means that if you ever have any type of issue with the IRS, those are the 2 credentials that they're going to allow to represent you, right? If you're not using one of those 2 individuals, you're going to have to hire an attorney or something. Like, you got to go a different route. But if you're already sort of paying someone to prepare your taxes or help you run your business or whatever it might be, why not use someone who's been diligent enough to get one of those licenses that typically are going to make you a standout in this area.
Right.
And for those listeners, please stop trying to contact Brian and get the free 99 price. I try to tell clients all the time, what I'm willing to say is based on what you're willing to pay.
I like that. And to be clear, I do a good amount of, like, pro bono or free type of work, but it's always going to be limited in terms of what I can give you until we get to a certain engagement level.
I was just going to say that Brian does a number of free workshops for the community, all of those things. So you guys definitely want to check out his website. He's always giving to the community. So take the class. I took his class and was like, my mind was like, whoo, that little emoji, that's what the blown up head. And I was like, I didn't know this. Because everybody just thinks I'm getting LLC and everything's going to be great. Listen, man, it is steps to this, is things that you need to have. And that's the reason why you want to have a certified public accountant like Brian, because it's not just about getting the LLC and everything is gravy now, right? There's other business entities and things like that that may be better for your business. So just had to say that quick little thing. And now Kevin's like, nice, go ahead and give your tip. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of piggyback since we have Brian here. So my tip is for people who are cashing out of like investment accounts. So I'll use specifically a 401k or 403b that you have at your job. Oftentimes people treat those as like emergency funds. And the thing about it is when you're taking money from that, that account is set up, as a retirement account. So 59 and a half is like that golden age where after you take money out, then you're not getting that penalty. So there's a 10% penalty involved when you take money out before that. And oftentimes people don't know. And those taxes, those accounts are also, pre-tax. So if you taking money out, Uncle Sam always want their money. Okay. So if you're leaving your company and you have, let's say you're going from company A, you have a 401k. Let's say you have, $40,000 in it. And now you're going to company B. Roll it over. Okay. So that way you don't take the check. Like you take the check, you're going to get hit with the penalties and taxes. So you want to make sure that you just roll that over. And let's say that as an entrepreneur, you're like, hey, I want to leave my job and start my own thing. You can roll it over to an IRA rollover account. Okay. That still protects you as well. So that's my tip without getting too further along with that. And then, guys, if you want more, y'all know what to do. NykeiaNeal@gmail.com, 267-257-3274. You like the podcast?
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Little shimmy. Show to work.
All right. Well, so you guys are talking rollover and tax. I'm going to talk about people trying to get mortgages with poor credit a lot of times people get denied for mortgages. The thing about getting denied for mortgages, there's a lot of emotion attached to that. And so people get denied for a mortgage with one mortgage lender and they give up. If you have poor credit, there are some options out there. First things first, shop mortgage companies. When you go to the mortgage lender, tell them, listen, I have poor credit. Do you have programs that can work with a person that has poor credit? 570. There are programs out there that 580, 600, 615. You can get a mortgage with those credit scores. You just have to find the company that does them. I would tell you that to give them that information up front so that they know what they're dealing with and they can tell you before they run your credit. But even if they run your credit, you can shop around a mortgage. If you get 6-7 mortgage lenders in a 2-week period, it all looks like one inquiry to the credit bureaus. So don't worry about shopping mortgage. You don't have to just go to one place. So that's the first thing. If you're trying to get a mortgage with poor credit, find a lender that deals with poor credit mortgages. And if that doesn't work, try the rent to own option. There are a bunch of for sale by owner properties out here, or properties that if you talk to the owner, they will allow you to rent the property for a period of time and take a portion of your rent and apply it towards a down payment of the mortgage. And they'll give you 1, 2, 3 years and say, at the end of 3 years, you have what's called the first right of refusal, where we'll sell the house to you. If you can't get a mortgage, then we'll sell it to the next person, but you have the first right of refusal. If you get the mortgage, we'll apply that extra money in your rent towards the down payment. So don't just give up because you got denied a mortgage by one credit lender. That's my tip for the day.
Well, that was a good tip, Kevin.
215-904-8690 is the phone number. Premisien.com is the website.
You're such a biter. You're such a biter. You always bite my style.
Yo, she thinks she owes everything. Anyway, so Brian, this next part of the podcast, this conversation, is we like to tell stories about experiences that we've had that would give people or would compel people to deal with us or to take advantage of our services. We do that because a lot of times we know the what, but we don't know the why, right? People, so I can tell people all day what to do in their credit, but people don't know the why. So in this segment, we'd like for you to tell a story, and it doesn't absolutely have to be about taxes or finances. It could be about your personal entrepreneurship journey. But give people a story, an experience that will illustrate why somebody would do what we do.
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's got me stumped a little bit. A story that would compel folks to do business with me. Yeah, I mean, I would say, for me, what always the backdrop for everything that I do, business, personal, etc., is for the most part, is always going to be tied to core values. So, if I'm going to give a story, I would probably, relate it to just something that happened that forced me to lean into core values. So, this past month of January, excuse me, was actually, it was my best month in business. Financially, it was my best month in business so far. Like it wasn't even close. Like by far, it was my best month. And there are a lot of things that can contribute to that. It's tax season. There are things that can contribute to that. But what I believe ended up happening that ultimately really swung the pendulum and swayed things my way. I reached a point this month where I had to confront my core values, because I was, a specific client that I was working with. And that was, it was becoming like that area was starting to be called into judgment. You know what I mean? From my own perspective, like I'm critiquing it myself and saying, this doesn't align with my core values. You know what I mean? Like the money's good. Like you know what I mean? It's always, when you're in business, like every dollar counts, right? Yeah. So I don't want to not work with this client, you know what I mean? Because financially, I want to get the money. But I reached a point where I said, I remember having a conversation with my wife. I was like, I told her, I said, I got to terminate a client today. She was like, what? She's like, I didn't even know you could get terminated. Like, this is not corporate America. Like, how do you terminate? So I said, I got to terminate the service. Like, I can't work with them anymore. And she was like, what do you mean? Obviously I can't go super deep into details, but I don't know. It over a period of months, like I had to question or confront too often, was this aligned with my core values? And I just kept figuring out that it's not. You know what I mean? It was causing more stress and more agitation, and it just wasn't a great experience. And I think it was probably that way, I would assume, on both sides. Like it was just kind of evident that like this is not really working like we thought it was. So
it's like a relationship.
Say it again.
It's like a relationship. It's like it's not really working for both of us, right?
To an extent, yeah, to an extent. But being able to say, being confident enough to say that it makes sense to go in a different direction. And this is just me having a conversation with myself, because of, at the end of the day, it's not aligning with the core values that I hold. You know what I'm saying? Just being confident enough, brave enough, not that I didn't still have fear that it could go wrong. And again, every dollar counts. I need it. But being willing to do that in a month that ended up being the best month by far for my business was like, I don't think that goes back to the faith aspect. I don't think that's by coincidence. Like that's just something that was revealed to me that said, are you going to make this decision? Are you going to stand on it or not? You know, you're going to stand on integrity, you're going to stand on these principles or not? You know what I'm saying? And I said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stand on it. Ends up being the best month of business for me. So like things like that, I don't know if that compels people to do business with me, but like that is just something that, man, I don't ever see myself deviate. Like that's just who I am. Like I'm going to choose my principles and my values before anything. You know what I'm saying? And if it conflicts with a relationship, if it conflicts with whatever, let the chips fall where they may, like I'll deal with the aftermath, but I'm not going to deviate. I'm at a point in my life where I'm not going to deviate away from values. I might have struggled with that when I was younger, but now it's not even a question. You know what I mean? Like I'm always going to choose values first.
That's compelling.
All money ain't good money.
Right. But that is compelling, because when I make referrals, I tell people, I say, listen, if you're looking for somebody that's going to be all with the, that type of tech stuff, that's not your guy. Like Brian is straight up. He's going to let you know whether or not he can help you, whether or not it's worth it for both of you guys, and that's important. That is compelling because people look for that. People want to, when we talk about money, you want to deal with somebody who has high integrity, somebody who has those core values. So absolutely, definitely compelling.
No, that's the one, right? That's good. That's good stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and let me say that I'm going to say this disclaimer every show. If you hear your story, if you're following along in the audience and you hear your story, just know we never say names. And we're not shaming you. We are telling these stories because we know that it's going to help somebody else. And so that leads me into my story. Had a person who had a few charge-offs and went to get a mortgage. Didn't talk to me first. Went to get a mortgage, got denied the mortgage, and that's how they got to me. But they were saying, these charge-offs were back 5 years ago, and now they've come up and they prevented me from getting a mortgage. So what I tell people all the time is, you don't have to absolutely do anything about your charge-offs because of the way charge-offs work. You don't absolutely have to do anything, but there are mortgage companies that have criteria. So the federal government, if you're getting a mortgage, the federal government has no restrictions on charge-offs. You can have as many charge-offs on your credit as you want, and they can be as high as you want. But each lender has their own criteria. Some of them will allow you to have charge-offs. Some of them will not. Some of them will allow you to have charge-offs, but they have to be no more than a maximum amount. Mm-hmm. So just shop your mortgage, but make sure you're paying attention to those charge-offs because they can come to bite you when it's time to get a mortgage. That's my client story. Nice. You got something for us? I wanted to go first since I didn't want you to say I was biting.
Because it's true though, but that's all right. We talk about that another time. So okay, I was working with someone. Look, I'm not even gonna give gender. I was working with someone who had life insurance policy and didn't know exactly what it is that they had. So we contacted the company. They allowed me to speak on their behalf. I asked the company a couple questions. Come to find out, this person had 4 policies on themselves, and they had 4 children, had 4 policies on their children, each individual. So in total, they had 8 policies. They thought that they only had 1 policy, and all of their 4 children were on that 1 policy with them as well. They were paying over $200 for that. They had multiple charges coming out, and every time they tried to talk to the agent would kind of spin them, if you will, oh, it's for this is going on. So they didn't know that they had all of those things going on. So I was able to help that person, give them more coverage, reduce the price by over $100, insure all of their children as well, and then put that extra money that they were paying into an investment for them and their family.
That's why you need to come and see Nykeia Neal.
Oh,
properly structured life insurance policy. All right, good deal. So, Brian, we have a segment. Thank you for that, by the way. So we have a segment of the show where we ask the entrepreneur to tell us about a time that they were ready to give up. But you've done that already. So thank you for telling us that. You didn't know, but you gave it to us. So, foresight.
No
God,
problem.
right? Your third eye vision. All right, but what we do want to do is take you to our Fast 4 segment. So we're going to ask you 4 questions. We want you to answer succinctly, quickly, these 4 questions. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Book that impacted your personal or entrepreneurial journey.
Man, so many of them. The one that's coming to mind immediately. It may not be the best book, but the one that's coming to mind immediately is called The E-Myth. I think it's Michael Gerber.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good book. Good book. E-Myth.
Must read. Must read. Yep.
Good. So and by the way, we don't send our guests the questions or the format ahead of time because we want this to be genuine, right? We want you to think about, but it's just a conversation, right, Brian? So the next question, two.
Kevin, sorry. I know this is probably not, I'm going off script. Can I give two? The other one,
come on.
The other one is it's called the Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm rereading it right now. It's called the Cash Flow Quadrant. Rich Dad Poor Dad is the most popular title by Robert Kiyosaki, but this Cash Flow Quadrant, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to read this book. You absolutely have to.
Sure. Yeah. And it's the follow-up to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and people don't know about it. It's a great book because in Rich Dad Poor Dad he introduces those 4 quadrants, but he talks about and you really see, Brian, in the book how you, even as entrepreneurs, we are in the left quadrants, right?
Absolutely.
And we need to be moving over to the right quadrants. Oh, that's a great.
And you can be in more than one quadrant and at a time, right? But it's which one are you going to like dominate? What are you going to be most dominant in, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I just went over this Tuesday night when I did my seminar. I talked about the cash flow quadrant, baby.
Cash flow quadrant, E-Myth and the cash flow quadrant. Great books, man. Great books. All right, Brian, give us a tool or resource that has helped you tremendously. Again, personal or professional.
Prayer. I mean, it's probably seems like a cliche, obvious answer, but man, the ability to speak with God and not be, not be ashamed of it or hesitant or embarrassed or whatever it is. The ability to recognize, one, that there is a higher power and that you are limited as a human being. And to tap into that resource has helped me in every area of life, just being willing to pray.
Yes. That's a great answer. It was not say at all. And that was that. Yes.
No, that's a zinger. That's a zinger right there.
Good answer. Yes.
Thank you.
Brian, tell us one challenge in your professional journey that you had to overcome.
One challenge that I had to overcome in my professional journey. Man, these some tough questions, man. Y'all got some tough ones because it's hard to narrow it down to just one. I'll say in the professional journey, being able to know what doesn't work has been as critical as knowing what does work. So I guess another way to say that is, how people say you either win or you learn, like there's no losses, right? But you got to take the shot in order to win or learn, right? Or lose, if you want to consider that. So I would say the challenge, one of the biggest challenges for me is just being willing to fail, like being able to get it wrong. Because it's not permanent. You know what I mean? Like most things in life are not, some things are, but most things that we do in the course of business are not, like for me, I'm not performing brain surgery. Like I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like if I get it wrong, there's probably someone who has gotten it wrong before.
Right.
And most likely there is a remedy for it if I'm leaning on my core values. And for example, sometimes I'll find a mistake and I'll confront that, assuming I make one. I'll find that before, I'll bring it to the client's attention sometimes. Say, hey, you know what? You might not have noticed this, but we got to go back and redo that because I missed something.
Right.
You know what I mean? And although that can make you feel like you got egg on your face and you don't know as much as you think you do. I mean, most of the time, in my experience, the clients appreciate it. They might have been a little frustrated. Annoyed, but they were far more willing to say, man, I'm glad you caught that. So I'll go through the inconvenience of like, let's correct it or do it over rather than you didn't catch it. And God forbid something happens, worst case scenario with the IRS because you weren't on top of it. So.
Right. No, that's good. People like you being authentic and being real and human. Like I make mistakes sometimes, and owning it. Ownership is big, accountability is huge.
Good. Last question, Brian, and you're you're out of the hot seat. Last question. One thing you wish you'd learned earlier that would have made life a little easier for you, personally or professionally?
I mean, man, just going back to the faith aspect, I believe that we learn everything in the season that we're supposed to learn it. So there's not much that I can say that I should have learned earlier, but I will say from a professional standpoint, I wish that I would have bet on myself earlier. And again, bet is, probably not the best way to describe it because it sounds like it sounds like you at a casino or something, but I spent way far more years than I should have based on Brian's perspective, not the high, the most highest perspective, but from my perspective, I spent way more time than I needed to in corporate America, not just corporate America, but like certain jobs, certain companies. And I wish I would have just it's not that I didn't believe in myself. I wish I would have believed in myself enough to say, I'm going to go ahead and bet on myself and choose myself. Let me try to make it more specific. Most people will spend sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an advanced degree, right? To go back to college, maybe get an MBA or even get your undergrad degree, right? And Nykeia and Kevin, I'm sure you guys can appreciate, from clients that you may see, you can go into unbelievable debt just trying to get a degree so that you can have a job and pay back that debt, right?
Yes.
And one day, again, just having a conversation with someone, and some things are taught and some things are caught.
Right.
And just having a conversation with someone, they were like, man, look, before I go back and spend another $100,000 or whatever it costs to get this degree, I'm gonna go ahead and start my business. Or I'm gonna go ahead and do such and such. This was years before I started my own journey. But I caught that for a second. I was like, man, you know what? That's true. I done spent way more money on than, student debt and higher education. I haven't even put a cent into trying to form, my own business at that time.
Right.
So, just things like I wish that I would have just bet on myself earlier. But again, it happened in the season that it was supposed to happen so that I can learn what I needed to learn.
Right. Absolutely.
In all areas of life, not just business. I needed to learn a lot and still learning a lot.
And you can teach your daughter different things now from what it is that you learn. So.
Man, listen, my daughter teaches me. I'll be honest. My daughter teaches me. As much as I, love being a parent, I hope that I'm viewed as a great father. She tells me often that I am. But there are certain things that I just learn about myself because my child reveals it. It's like having a child is like holding a big mirror up to yourself.
Yeah.
And you see habits, you see, things we can project onto our children. So she sometimes is teaching me how to be a good father, good parent, as crazy as that might sound.
No, it doesn't sound crazy. And they're super honest. Kids don't know to try to not do this to hurt your feelings. They just this is what it is. So, definitely get that.
Yeah. And we see her teaching you on social media.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Thank you for being transparent.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Brian Murray, we appreciate you. We're privileged and honored to have had you. We are certainly going to have you on again.
Sure.
We're going to have your wife on as well. So tell her to stay tuned. I know she's watching. So you hear me. I know you hear me. Brian, tell people where they can reach you.
Yeah, on social media, blueprint_CPA. That's my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook handle. And then website is blueprint4, FOR, finance.com. Feel free to check out the website. You can schedule a consultation directly from the website, and we can go from there.
Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. We truly appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're a man of distinction, and we are just really, really grateful for you being here today on the Biz Breks Podcast. Once again, the Biz Breks Podcast on the Cosmos Radio Network. We're here every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're broadcasting from our studios here in Pennsylvania, but we're connecting with our partners. Thanks to Sean out in London. Thanks to Showtime, the hype man, for being a part of our world. You can catch us on all of our social media platforms. You can catch us on the Cosmos Radio Network USA platforms. You can catch us on all of my social media platforms, the name Premisien, Premisien. You can catch Nykeia on her social media platform on Facebook. You can catch her on Nykeia Neal. Was it Nykeia_Neal on Instagram?
This is Nykeia Neal.
Just Nykeia Neal on Instagram, right? No underscore?
Nope.
All right. You can catch us on any one of the platforms. Please follow, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and share. Follow, like, subscribe, and share. That's how people can get to see Brian, Nykeia, and myself. We want to be in everybody's living room. So please follow, like, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned until next Thursday on the Biz Breks Podcast on the Cosmos Radio Network USA.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, appreciate you.
From the dark side of the moon, this is the Cosmos Radio Network.